Hi, I'm Kola Olugbodi, the author of the book Through It All. So I continue with the Through It All reading series. Now I'm reading the fourth episode, which is titled Challenging the Word Cannot. Challenging that word called cannot. Please follow me as I read. I never fully grasped the gravity of the resolution I made that December in Ara until several years later. My approach and disposition to life was now totally different. I felt I never needed to trust or depend on anyone again. I believed only in myself and strongly believed that I could get solutions to any problem that I was going through all by myself. At the point I knew it seemed I coined it somewhere in my heart. I can do all things through me that strengthens myself. I needed no one else to help me, and this became my way of life. To a large extent, this resolution worked in my favor because it helped me to stop pitying myself. It did not matter anymore what others thought about me. I carried this mentality even into my adult years and even now. Some of those traits are still somewhere within me. This new orientation made an independent nonconformist out of me. It helped me to know how to do a lot of things. It helped me to put my instinct to work, believing that there was nothing I really set my mind to do that would be impossible. Those days, no one ever dared me by saying, "You cannot." I detested that phrase so much that I could go to any length to prove to anyone that I could. Sometimes I go to that extent to my own hurt. I still recall the day I went playing cowboys with other children on our street in Tejosho in Surulere, Lagos. We went to the backyard of the landlord's apartment where he had stored a full drum of engine oil. It suddenly occurred to me that though the drum was full and heavy, I could push it down on its side without anyone assisting me. After conceiving the idea, all I needed was somebody to tell me, "I cannot." So I announced my intention to the cowboys with me. One of them wrote to me, reiterated that "you cannot." That was just what I needed to hear. With a mischievous smile, I mustered all my strength and pushed like Goliath before David. The drum fell heavily on its side. The force with which it hit the ground made its lid fly off, and the oil started gushing out. Wow. I tried lifting the drum up to stop the leakage, but it was too heavy for me. Thank God that I didn't bet with anyone that I could lift it up to its initial position. Seeing the sea of oil, the cowboys fled the scene. And what do you expect me to do? So did I. On another occasion, a neighbor's daughter, Kemi Fakeye, dared me to jump from the balcony of our story apartment. She said to me, "You cannot." Did I jump? Of course I did. I made up my mind to live the life that was set before me. I was always optimistic, full of life, full of hope, and to the glory of God, I was also very brilliant and smart academically. This gave me a reassurance that I had a great future ahead of me. Dad retired from Central Bank of Nigeria in 1980 and relocated the whole family from Lagos to Osogbo, the capital of Osun State, sometime in 1982. We all went with Dad in his Toyota Crown car to his farm in a village called Ojo, which was just some few miles from our hometown, Ara. On one of such occasions, we took a break from the farm work and Dad decided to teach each of my siblings how to drive on the not so busy farm road. After everyone have had their feel of the steering, I asked my dad to let me also try driving the car. He laughed in bewilderment and then said, "Kola Olugbodi, you cannot drive this type of car. When you grow up, you'll be able to drive an automatic car, but not a manual car." That day, my difference from others surfaced again. But now, I knew how to manage it. I promised myself that I was going to prove my father wrong and was going to drive this same car of ease that he said I could not drive. I just had the instinct and believed that I could do anything. I knew it was not going to be an easy task to drive a three-pedaled car with just one leg. But I also knew that there was nothing called impossible in my dictionary. Months after the Ojo farm incident, I kept waiting for an opportune time to have my first try behind the steering of the Toyota Crown. Tunji, my immediate elder brother, soon became the chief driver of the family. And most times we were always together in the car anytime he was driving out on an errand for our parents. That way, I had time to understudy his driving skills. I observed what he did before changing gears, what he did when he was to move initially, and when slowing down or stopping. I would silently tell myself that I should be able to drive this machine. After all, I started practicing moving the car back and forth within the parking space in front of the house anytime my parents were not at home. Not long after this, Dad employed a driver named Owade. He was a very nonchalant and carefree man, one that would dance to your tune as long as you promise to buy him a bottle of beer. The very first day Owade and I went out together, I asked him to let me drive the vehicle. That was the first time he would ever see me drive. He agreed, and we swapped seats. Wanting to convince him that I could drive, I left the car in first gear and drove on slowly. The vehicle cruised on, and all I needed to do was turn the steering either to the left or to the right. I'd seen Tunji drive that car exactly like that, so I just copied him. Owade fell for it. Meanwhile, all this happened on a side road, which was less busy. I told him that now that I had convinced him I could drive, he should please step down while I linked the main road. He obliged, not knowing that I'd never moved the car beyond the parking space at home before. I did not know that driving on a side road was not the same as driving on the main road. I got confused about when to change gears. I didn't know I had to release the throttle before pressing down the clutch, or that I would have to slow down by gently pressing the brake when negotiating bends. I never knew that driving was more than turning the steering. To compound my predicament, this driving experiment was happening in the night. That meant that having to cope with the headlamps of oncoming vehicles while doing everything not to run into the vehicles in front of me, it was a serious battle. By this time, I was sweating profusely and my heart was pounding so loudly and so fast that I was almost regretting embarking on this dangerous exploit. Then the unexpected happened. There were rail tracks ahead and the driver of the vehicle in front of me seemed to be hesitating and trying to decide whether to cross the rail line or not, when he suddenly heard the loud blast of the horn of an oncoming train. Fully preoccupied with my thought of not running into him, I was oblivious to the reason he was hesitating. The man must have felt he still had time to cross the rail before the train got to him, and so he sped over. Unfortunately for me, while struggling to decide what to do as I approached the railroad, I pressed the brake pedal while the car was in the third gear. While the car slowed down, I was contemplating driving over the railroad before the train gets to me too. I was totally naive. I never knew I had to change the first gear before moving on. And so the engine went off as I got right on top of the rail. I tried to move the car off the rail, but it would just jack forward and the engine would go off again. By now, the train had gotten very close. Passers-by were screaming and shouting, "Get the car off the rail! Get the car off the rail!" The train driver was blowing his horn continuously when he sighted a stationary car on his path. Now everyone was screaming, "Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Save your life!" I didn't know what next to do. I didn't want that option. I wanted to make sure I saved the car. Olugbodi had now gotten to the side of the road and was screaming some instructions that I could not just comprehend. I just reassured myself, "Kola, you can do this thing. You can do this thing. You can do this thing. You can get this car out of the railroad." Instinctively, I just remembered that the car was in gear 3 and I felt that I should change to gear 1. All these were happening so fast that the train was now getting so close. I pressed the clutch and the throttle all the way down at the same time, turned on the ignition, released the clutch. Suddenly, while the throttle was still down, the car jumped off the railroad. The train sped past me almost the next second. My daughter will always say, "Pew!" Just went past me the next second. Pew! I slammed the brake as Olugbodi ran towards me, scolding and ranting that I will make him lose his job. At that moment, none of what he was saying made any sense to me because I was just too afraid. I was shivering and shaking, knowing that I just cheated death by seconds. I had rigor immediately. The news of everything that happened got home before us. Eyewitnesses bombarded my parents, narrating how their son cheated death. I was in shock I had rigor. I was shivering. In fact, I shivered all through the night. I vowed never, ever to drive again. Some months after this incident, Owade and I were sent on an errand. On the way back, he parked the car by the roadside, got down from the driver's seat, came to my side, opened the door and told me, "You are driving us home." Immediately I got behind the steering wheel. The whole railroad episode started flashing through my head, and I started shivering all over again. Owade calmed me down and told me quietly, "That day is gone, and it will never come again. Now, just calm down and drive." What he said helped me tremendously. I started the ignition and drove again, still shaking in fear, of course, of what happened the first day that I had the train incident. After a while, my hand steadied and I never stopped driving since that day. My first ever car was that same Toyota Crown, which my dad had concluded that I would not be able to drive. I learned to drive it by using my left hand to push my left leg when pressing the clutch. The right leg did the accelerating, and then of course pressing the brake also that is in the middle. Through all these childhood experiences, the Lord helped me even though I did not know him. God preserved me, strengthened me, and gave me the heart of a lion. He gave me that can-do spirit. And up till now, I don't even have any reason to regret having grown up with polio. Wow, that was a long reading session. But I hope you were able to learn one or two things from it. If you say you cannot, you're right. You won't be able to do it. And if you say I can, you're also right, because you'll be able to do it. Those moving on in life are people that tell themselves, I can do it. They have that can-do spirit. The masquerade incident must have given me that can-do spirit that just kept on urging me on in life. They told me I could not drive. I had to prove them wrong by doing it, that I can. Many things that they tell me that I cannot, even some that maybe I needed not to have done. But once you tell me I cannot, I just want to prove it to you. I want to encourage you. The only limit you have in life are the ones that you have put in your own path. And you tell yourself, oh, I cannot go beyond this point. Somebody said I can't go beyond this point. My mother said I can't go beyond this point. My father said I can't go beyond this point. So I can't go beyond this point. You've placed those obstacles before yourself. From today, I want you to begin to believe beyond even what you believe about yourself now. You can do more than you can imagine in life. If only you know the things you can do now than ever before, you'll be so amazed. And that's what I've experienced from when I was young up until now. It's so amazing the things can-do spirit can push one to do. So please, you also, if you don't have that can-do spirit, put it on from now. You can do all things. And then, of course, if you have God by your side, what is going to be impossible for you? So till I come your way in the next episode, thank you for following me, even though the reading was so long. I really appreciate you. Let's go together to the next episode when I'm going to start telling you challenges I had academically when I was young. Thank you very much, and God bless you.